Welcome back to the Storm. Shawnelle Scott, Tyrone Grant, and special guests, two-time All-Big East, Baltimore native, international basketball success story as well, Mr. Marcus Hatten. Welcome to the Storm.
Mr.
Thank you for
Manhattan.
having me. Thank you for having me, the one and
Hey,
only.
listen, that's that's
St.
that's
John's Water
that's
Walker.
probably one of the best nicknames I've ever heard. And the funny part is, before we even jump into this shit, is I was overseas. I think I just signed in Milan, and dudes was like, "Yo, you who this kid Manhattan? Where he from? Brooklyn?" And I'm like, "Who y'all talking about?" It's like some kid averaging 30 at St. John's. I said, "What's his name?" They was like Manhattan. I really thought that was his last name. you know, the internet wasn't like that back then. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like that
No,
overseas.
right,
So I'm like, yo, we got a
right.
kid named Manhattan. He killed me from Brooklyn. I ran with it until I found out he was from Baltimore. Real story.
No, no
Real
doubt, no
story.
doubt. Man, I saw Ty one summer, and we actually had that conversation. And he was like, "Yo, bro, I was in Milan, and they keep talking about this kid from Brooklyn. His name Manhattan, bro. I didn't know like we had a kid from Brooklyn, Manhattan. I had to find out." And he said, "Man, the more he checked on me, the more and more I kept being consistent with putting up numbers and trying to keep St. John's on my back." So once again, it's all appreciated. It's all love, you know.
Definitely love. So listen. Let me. I know I'm already in it, right? The funny part about Marcus Hatton, right, is when I left St. John's, I was kind of removed because I was getting this money. I ain't really know what was going on. But the calls and shit I was getting from what Boy was doing at St. John's, I had to find a way to watch him, even with the dial up services overseas. Like I had this, like everybody was hitting me. You know what I'm saying? I had hit Derman play and was like, "Yo, what's up with the?" He was like, "Nah, Ty, he the goods, he the goods." But your career spoke for itself. You had an outstanding career. I know we gonna get into it, but happy to have you on the show.
Man, thanks for having me. You guys are brothers to me. You guys are guys who kind of paved the way and allowed me to do what I came into St. John's and do because you guys had already set a standard. You guys had already set the bar, especially that 98, 99 team. Like, I was following essence of that. And y'all know my correlation to that time was Boosie
Hmm.
Thornton. So I was already following like what was going on. And then just building a relationship, Eric Barkley, Chetney Gray, so forth and so on. And it's just like, man, it felt like home. And the crazy part about it, I didn't even play when I visited St. John's. I was with Derman player, and I said, man, just give me the letter of intent. I'm ready to sign. They took us. They played. I think it was Miami in the Garden, and I found out that we got $300 for breakfast, and we was going to the corner store getting donuts, cereal, and milk. And I was like, man, I'm signing. Give me my letter of intent, man. You can't beat that, man. So it was definitely something that felt comfortable, and I felt like it was the next thing home, like home to me.
So let's get back to the early stages of young Marcus. I knew you grew up in the jungle of Baltimore City. Yeah, let's talk about how this whole thing with basketball started. A little bit about your background, family background, and get
hmm
into where you were, which
hmm
was St. John's University.
So early, my pops introduced me to like all sports. Like he introduced me to baseball, basketball, and football. Football was actually my first choice, and I didn't know anything about my father's athletic and sports history as a youngin until I got a little older. So he introduced me to all the sports. He never came and talked to me about like I played like he let me know that he played ball, how good he was, and none of that, and like uphold a legacy. And then he just introduced me to the different sports, and I fell in love with basketball first. So I'm like, oh, I like this. I like this. And then once I got to like 12, 13 years old, I said, this is what I want to do. And then when I got to that age at 13, I said, yeah, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be a professional basketball player. And then once I decided to lock in that way, I started to hear the stories. The more and more I played, the better and better I got. It was like, do you know who your father is? I'm like, yeah, it's my dad. Like, he worked at the rec centers. Like, nah. Do you understand who your dad was and how good he was as a basketball player? I'm like, nah, I never seen him play. I didn't even know he could play. My father was a physical specimen. They used to call him like a Greek god because he used to work out all the time. I had no idea about him being a basketball player. I just know he worked out. He ran rec centers, around the way, and that he would hold house leagues. And he would not cut nobody. So I'm like, whoa, like, and then these guys who are outside in the streets who like they respected him. So anything that I did, it was like, oh, that's Lil Mojo, that's Lil Mojo. So I'm like, oh man. So I get to playing, I get better and better, and then I'm like, yo, I can really play. I can do this. I went and played out, tried out for JV my ninth grade year. I made the team, but I never played. Everybody knew I could play. They was like, yo, why he not playing on varsity? I knew I wasn't ready for varsity because the way I wanted to play, I didn't want to just come in and play 5 minutes and like be like that part. I wanted to come in and dominate and show people that I can play. So I played ninth grade year. I really didn't get no time. I actually didn't play my 10th grade year. I worked on my game and I came back and I played my 11th grade year, and that's when everything took off. I made an immediate impact in Baltimore. Everybody started saying my name. Everybody started coming to my games. And that's when I was like, man, I'm ready. I can play against anybody.
So hold
So
that
I
thought. Hold
challenged
that thought. I
myself.
got a question for you. You
Hmm.
giving us the basketball story, but for the audience, for the masses that's watching us, give us a real visual of what you saw in Baltimore. Meaning, we when I hear Baltimore, I think about the Wire. So just give us a
Hmm.
visual of what you was experiencing during those times while hooping.
And more importantly, Marcus, like, yeah, what was that? What was that landscape like? Like right as you started high school, like what was there that just captured you,
So,
just to get you started?
all right. So I'm glad y'all asked that because I always rep my neighborhood, right? And it was right next to a hospital where we was the projects. It was Chapel Hill Projects. And we seen any and everything. But they were guys who I thought were so much of brothers that took care of their neighborhood that nothing else like mattered at that time. So when that happened, it was like you would see like guys hustling, you would see guys getting into fights, you would see guys robbing people, like so it was all that stuff that people see in the wire. We actually lived it. Like like you hear it one day, the next day you're gone. So you it was actually survival of the fittest coming up from the side that I was. Like a lot of times, like people had to have guns on them just for survival because you never knew what happened the next second. And I ain't talking about the next day. I'm talking about the next second. You might come into something where as though like I remember vividly, like it was neighborhood robberies where guys walked around and told guys like, yo, y'all little guys go in the house. And then we seen it. Ours got big, and we took off. And then next thing you heard, you just hear shots. And like you in the house, so it was survival of the fittest. Like, like I'm quite sure you guys have it in for sure in Brooklyn, in parts of New York. But I thought like if you can survive in Baltimore, man, like you can survive anywhere.
That's that
And we're so
survival
small of
instinct.
a town. Yeah, because we so small of a town that I don't even think we got a million people in population. That we every year over 200, 300, 250, 300 murders every year. And it never goes under that. It never goes to 100. It never goes to 125. It always goes from 200, 250, 300, 310, 327, and it just keep going up. And now is even more. But back then, you like, oh man, you might have a whole street brawl, where like guys was like, we go to a house party. Guys jumping out of taxis, getting it on. Streets is filled with fire, with fighting. Guys coming out bars, guys jumping out cars, guys jumping out taxis, and the whole street is full with a fight. And I'm 13 at the time, so I'm had to navigate through all this and still trying to become what I became.
So Marcus, perfect segue. How does basketball play a role for you in this chaos? Obviously, we've heard the different Baltimore basketball stories before from Bootsy, the older generation
Hmm.
with Sam Cassell, with Muggsy Bogues, and that crew at Dunbar. How does it work for you, and how does the game help you to navigate the neighborhood and all that chaos?
Because it is a respect level. The guys who are the street guys, they love sports. They love basketball. So they respect it on a whole different level, especially when you true to it. When you're not trying to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So if you true to what it is that you do, then they respect you.
Was Marcus? Was there one player or a couple of players that in Baltimore at that time that you just that captured you or just gave you the inspiration to like be the player that you eventually became?
Man, it's a ton of them. It's not just one, because at that time you had Mike Lloyd who played at Syracuse. You had Johnny Hemsley who played at Miami. You had Shawnte Rogers who played at George Washington. So like it's a ton of guys. You had Kwame Evans who also played at George Washington. Um, like the list goes on and on. Dante Bright played at UMass. Keith Booth played at the University of Maryland. Rodney Elliott played at the University of Maryland. Warren Dixon, he ended up playing at the University of Maryland. Like we already know Sam Cassell. We know Muggsy Bogues. Those guys. But Boosie, Johnny Hemsley, Shawnte Rogers, Kevin Norris, those guys were my guys.
So, so Marcus, me and you have a mutual friend. We call him Scooter. He's known to me and as Coach Gunn. He's been with me for a while, like a decade or more. So he wanted me to ask you this question. The question is, who was Skip Wise?
The greatest basketball player from Baltimore City. The most noted, the most highly talented, most entertaining, and arguably the best player to ever come from Baltimore City.
That's a tough.
And he came, and his name been going through generations since the '70s.
Wow. Now, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I thought you were going to say a couple of things.
That's
so
hell of an
our
accolade.
guy was right. So,
Yeah,
did he end up going to school? Like, how what was it? What was the impact on Baltimore basketball with Skip Wise?
So I never met him actually. I just hear his name throughout the conversations through people. But he went to Dunbar, of course. Then he went to Clemson, and he had one of the best freshman years that the ACC has ever saw. And then he left after his freshman year to turn professional. And I think he got caught. I think he got caught in the midst of like a drug habit, a drug addiction, and kind of bounced around. And I think he just got railroaded that way because he couldn't get his addiction under control.
No doubt. And was he somebody like he just ran through the fabric of the basketball culture? Like, all the coaches talked about him, all the elders talked about him.
Man, like you said, if you mention his name to NBA players now to the day that has some type of age on them, they're gonna tell you how good he was. Still to this day, and they're gonna say it with such excitement and like, man, there's no way this guy should have been 10, 15 year professional NBA player.
So,
Also,
so,
That's
so
fantastic.
with saying that, that leads me to your development, right? As a youth coming up, learning about how great your dad was, looking up to Bootsy and all those guys, and Nut and all those guys. How was the transition into being on the team and not playing into becoming, Mr. Manhattan?
oh man, it was hell because I knew the only way for me to get good was to challenge the guys who were the guys. So I had to go to all of their neighborhoods to play them, and I walked. So in itself, before you even get there to play, if you make it through walking through these neighborhoods, it's like, yo, what? Yo, you walk through where? Yeah, I wanted to go play against Nut. So I gotta walk through East Baltimore. I gotta walk through Holbrook and Huffman. I gotta walk through Preston and Carolina. I'm giving y'all names of neighborhoods in Baltimore. I gotta walk through this. I gotta walk through North Avenue. Just to before I even get there, they looking at you like, yo, you ain't from around here. What's up with you? And I'm just giving a look like, yo, yeah, I'm gonna play ball. Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get in fights. You get in fights, and if you're trying to meet that, like you gotta meet everything head on in Baltimore because if you show any sign of weakness, then they gonna eat you
But
up.
so during that time,
And,
when did that change where that people were starting to know who Marcus Hatton was?
When I got about 15, 14, 15 was when people started to take notice. And mind you, none of them is all 4 or 5 years older than me. So I'm already going up an uphill battle. Mike Lloyd's and all them because they the guys. Mike Lloyd, McDonald's All American.
One of the wildest dudes that
Shante Rogers.
ever was on a road trip when we played St. John's, Syracuse. I went out with Mike Lloyd. He nearly got me expelled from St. John's as a freshman. That's when I was wild.
And Mike Lloyd was
Yeah.
a freak of nature. He was a physical specimen at that time. Shante Rogers the same. So
Damn.
going against those guys, you ain't got no choice but to get good. And once they started to see that you wasn't backing down, and then they started to see the leaps and bounds of me getting better, they started to say, "Oh, he can play." And then once I knew I could start playing with them guys, that was like, now I gotta kill them. I'm coming for the top spot.
And Marcus, I was going to ask you that. Maybe I know the answer to this, but maybe I don't. Like, so was there like a player, like as far as like, especially going to that sophomore, junior year, right? When you actually was on the team, was there a player like you wanted? I don't want to say emulate because I don't think when I see you, it's like it's unique. But was there one player like you was trying to catch, or you was trying to like, I'm a bust his ass, or I'm gonna be where he's at? Was there like that one player? Or
No, I had the hit list. I had the hit list. So was everybody. Because I wasn't on their level. Like even still becoming known, I still wasn't on their level because those guys played in Nike tournaments. Those guys was high level AAU tournament. Those guys were I don't know if y'all had a super team, super 50 teams or something like that. The Nike Invitational tournament. I was never a part of none of that at that time. So I had all of them on the list.
Marcus, I'm glad you mentioned AAU and camps and stuff. And obviously, this is the time where the shift starts to happen that eventually becomes drastic after you're done at St. John's, with the 5 stars of the world going away, the sneaker companies taking over the camps, the growth of AAU. So paint the picture for what it's like for you. Did you play AAU at all after you developed? Did you go to any camps? And if so, what was the scene like for you back then during your rise?
I only played AAU because I didn't know the politics of it all. Like so, whatever my coach wanted me to do, Bucky Lee, that's what I played. I played AAU with him, so I didn't know the politics of going to Nike, going to ABCD, going to 5 Star. The only camp I went to, and that was a last minute addition, was ABCD camp. So I never went to 5 Star. I never went to no Nike Invitational. I never went to none of that. So I was fortunate enough to have Renard Smith to help guide me and like pick everything up and say, look, whatever you need, I'm gonna make it happen. And that's how I was fortunate enough to like he took me through some workouts that he made me throw up, and I was like, yo, it can't get no worse than this. So anything else, I was like, I'm talking about we had this drill called Super 10, where you had to make 10 threes, 10 twos, and then you had to dunk the ball 10 times. Man, we did that workout for about an hour. As soon as I finished, I was over the trash can.
That's work, baby. That's work. As a young boy, huh? You was doing that as a young boy.
I said, yeah, I was 14, 15. And he like, yo, you can't lay the ball up. You got to dunk the ball. I'm like, hold up. Why I'm the only one got to dunk the ball? And we got other guys in here, and they laying the ball up. He say, you want to be like everybody else? And I'm like, nah. He said, all right then. Show me that you ain't like everybody else. So that was that was the battery that I needed in my back.
So in hearing these stories, which I really love, right? It's just a testament of middle inner city America kid going through the process to be great. You know what I'm saying? I know I always got along with you, but I didn't realize we had like similar stories, especially with the not playing and camps and shit. I never did none of that, son. I'm straight off the street. I didn't do anything. And I got invited to everything. I was like, nah, I'm in the hood. You know what I'm saying? But in saying that, how did this transition into your high school career coming to an end, and then deciding on your college, going to college, before making the decision to go to Tallahassee?
So my last year of high school, they changed the grade from passing from 70 or 75 to 60. So I was like, oh, bet. All I got to do is show up. Mind you, I don't have no insight on great GPA, core classes, and SAT. All that correlates to the last minute. Yo, I go to the club the night before I'm supposed to take the SAT, bro. I come home at 6 a.m. The SAT at 8 a.m. I don't even get no sleep. I come straight from the club, take a shower, go straight to the SAT joint. I get like a 770 on that joint. I'm like, oh, I'm good. They say, oh, nah, you ain't good. Your GPA don't match or correlate for you to get it. So I was like, man, and now I'm a rebel without cause. Cause I'm like, all right, what's next? I know I can't go there, and I really didn't have no offers coming out of high school, and I was player of the year, and I almost averaged a triple double, and I didn't have really no offers. Youngtown State. I'm like, what? Is that even a college? Like, I think I got like the letter that everybody get from like Xavier in Tennessee, but the coach ain't called me. He ain't handwrite that. You know, at that time they handwrite the
Right,
letter.
yeah, yeah,
They was
yeah.
interested. You know, at that time, if they type it, that's what they send everybody. So I had Youngstown State. I didn't even have Morgan State or Coppin State. And
Wow.
Morgan State was right up the street from my high school. So Bernard said, man, look, you want to go prep? I said, nah, man, I'm tired of high school. I don't think it can help me. He said, well, you want to go to JUCO? And I think he didn't say JUCO. He said junior college. I said, yeah, I want to go to junior college. I had to go to summer school because I failed the ninth grade biology class in my 12th grade year. So I had to go to summer school. So I couldn't even play my last year of AAU ball to see if I can get that last little glimpse that people would see me play and say, hell, we like this kid. Where he been at? I had to go to summer school.
Ty, I was a square in high school because the night before my SATs, I'd be dead sleep by like 9 o'clock, 9:30, trying to get up early and do all the proper stuff. But I wish I'd have sacrificed that to be like Marcus Hatten, though.
Nell, did you have the SAT book next to the bed, like thinking you would get
The
more
SAT
knowledge
book.
during the night?
I was taking classes. You know, I was playing with Riverside at the time. They had me in tutoring
Yeah.
classes. I mean, I did it all, man. But
Hey, Ty, I'm like you. Look, hey, Ty, I'm shaking my head
you
too.
know,
Look, all I remember saying, hey, it's even better if you don't answer the question because if you don't answer, you don't get it right. So I was like, all right, I ain't answering. Whatever I think I know, that's how I'm
yo,
gonna answer the
but Marcus,
question.
I tell you one thing. I would trade it, man, to have had like just a sensational basketball career and turn out the way you did, man. It was pretty amazing. We can get to that, but that's just my say on
that,
it.
that test that let me just say this, that test has caused so much stress and unfair headache for young people.
Oh man.
And Ty, I have a question, but you go first because Marcus, clearly, like, you figured out how to carve your own path despite these obstacles and despite just not having all of the knowledge about what you needed to do in order to get where you wanted to go. So I'm super curious in exploring that. But Ty, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up what he was saying, getting into, you talk about these mishaps and SATs and just going through the motion, not really getting recruited. With you and your team, how you decide to go to the junior college you decided to? Was it through because of what Bootsy did?
Honestly, no. It ended up playing that way because our paths was very much identical, and me and Boosie never talked about, yo, when you go down Tallahassee, it's gonna be like this. Look forward to this. Yo, when you go to St. John's, yo, it's gonna be this. We never had those conversations. I think the respect and knowing each other because we played against each other so much in the same neighborhood, knowing what I can do, he like, man, you gonna be all right wherever you go. And I think that was more so what it was. He ain't had to like, yo, get ready for this, look out for this. He kind of knew what I was because, mind you, like I said, he's older than me too. We battled. And he knew I wasn't backing down for nothing, so he already knew that I was going to be good going there because of my faith and belief in myself.
The irony.
And what was that experience like? Oh yeah, what was that experience like at Tallahassee? Like, what was that experience like? How did it? Do you think it was a
Yo,
great decision? And how did?
yo, it ended up being a great decision, but it almost went bad. I got homesick
Wow.
so bad, like after the second month, it looked like this outside. I was in the bed sleep. Like I don't know these dudes, man. He from Jersey, he from New York, he from Mississippi, he from man. I'm going here to play basketball. It was we started to play. My first 2 months I was good, and then the homesick bug hit me. I was like, man, I gotta go home. I started out great, averaging like 18 points, 16, 18 points. League play come. I think our first league game came. Every coach from almost like Cincinnati, Bobby Huggins was there, Larry Station, Iowa State. Pat Kennedy, DePaul, Mike Davis, Indiana, Mike Jarvis, St. John's, Florida State, and the list goes on. Man, I got there, I get 6 points because I'm so homesick. My coach, he a white guy, Mike Gillespie. He white. He furious. Man, what the? I brought all these coaches here to see you. All these coaches here to see you, and you go out there and get 6 points. All I can say, yo, I just want to go home. He said, you want to go home? He said, man, you gonna be just like the Baltimore guys. You gonna be back home on the stoop. I ain't had no response. I just want to go home. And it took me going home, realizing that I wasn't missing nothing, that I almost blew that opportunity to make a future for myself, to realize, yo, you got to lock in and focus. And he told me, he said, listen, if this is what you want to do, you're going to be willing to miss birthdays, holidays, miss your friends, miss your families, if this is what you want to do. And when he told me that, and I realized that.
How soon did you realize it though?
When I
How
locked
soon
in,
when you left and came back? How long was that?
we had Christmas break. It was Christmas break. Nobody was outside. I'm coming outside. You know, I'm thinking everybody going to be out on the block. Nobody out on the block. I got a call, bro. Yo, where y'all at? Yo, what you mean? It's cold outside, yo. Guys at work. Like, what? Yo, everybody come up. I come home, I get 20, 30 guys. Now it look like it's a party outside. We gambling, we doing our thing. I get a little, you get your stipend money. You get your money. I think I got some money. I said, oh, y'all, we doing this, we doing that. I went back to Tallahassee with about $300 out of 2,500. I think was my Pell Grant. Oh, I gotta go back now because mom ain't got no money, dad ain't got no money. I can't get no money from mama, so I gotta go back now because I damn sure ain't want to hustle, and because my guys wouldn't let me. So that's the one thing I told you about the neighborhood. What I loved about my neighborhood, they never would let me do things that I ain't had no business doing.
Damn. So
Yo, what? Get out of here. Go tell your father. I couldn't tell my father like, yo, what he do? Oh, you know your son out here trying to hustle? Thank you, I appreciate it. 'Cause that's how much respect they have for my dad.
damn. So you mean to tell me we almost lost Marcus Hatten
The streets.
to Tallahassee? We almost didn't get the legendary one.
Yo, yep, 100%, 100%.
So Marcus, with that being said, and you hit on it, like there's levels to the commitment that you need to take, right? So you had a coach in your ear about that, but you also had, this Baltimore basketball DNA that a lot of people have a lot of respect for. For our audience that doesn't know, people know the New York, the Chicago. What's the DNA of Hoopers from Baltimore?
Carmelo Anthony, Sam Cassell, Malcolm Delaney, Johnny Hemsley, Boosie Thornton, Shantae Rogers, Kevin Norris, Kwame Evans, Kevin Simpson. Hard nose. We ain't going for no, and we ready to hoop. We with whatever you with.
That's a fact.
That's
That's
dope.
a fact. A lot of our AAU head to head competitions was very intense because we weren't budging. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of my former professional athletes who played professionally is from Baltimore, and I never realized that till I spoke to Boosie after our interview. And I'm like, damn, I didn't even know he's from Baltimore. That's my guy. You know what I'm saying? So I see a lot of similarities between the cities, the stories, and what have you. So, in saying that, as you progress and you go back to Tallahassee, what continuously motivated you to want to get to that next level? Because I know you didn't want to stay in Tallahassee.
I always thought the worst thing that could happen to me is woulda, shoulda, coulda, and I never wanted that to be an instance of, damn, if I would have played hard or I would have did my best down here, I would have. I always wanted to give it my best effort. So it's like, yo, you here, make the best of it. And I was a gym rat, so I wasn't girl crazy. I didn't need the spotlight or attention. So my focus was on basketball. So once I started in Tallahassee, realized how we was dominating Florida State, and FAMU wasn't even in the question. And they coming over trying to, yo, we trying to come run with y'all, and we dominating them. And I'm the best player, so that made me want to get better. So I'm like, oh, yo, I'm ready for the next level. So before we get into that, I come back home and I match up with Sam Cassell, and he showed me, oh, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole.
Wow.
You talking like you that you doing that in junior college and you doing that in college, but you talking about somebody who's
Right.
doing this in the league, who's a three-time NBA champion. You better pump your brakes. And I was like, ah, and that was always my driving force. Every time I felt like I got too above myself, I always met something that's like, all right, you got more work to do.
Marcus, I have to ask because I've been lucky enough to be around Sam. I've interviewed him. What's your best Sam Cassell story?
When we played 2-on-2, it was Sam Cassell, Mike King, and me and Melvin Scott. And he truly showed me like, yo, I'm gonna show you what it is like to be an NBA All Star level point guard. And I'm thinking I'm ready, and he would back me down, and he would shoot that fadeaway. Sam is not athletic. Sam can't jump high. Sam can't run fast. But you is not blocking that fadeaway. And I'm thinking I got it. And every time he missed or we missed, and he saw me with my hands on my knees, Mike, over here, Mike, come on, I got one, Mike, come on, come on. I'm like, oh man, he ain't taking it easy on me. And if we went to 16, he had 13 or 14 points on me.
Yo, man.
And that was the eye-opening moment for me. That's my best Sam Cassell story for me. That said, yo, you got a lot more work to do.
Tallahassee, right? You get better and better, and then by the end of your years at Tallahassee, now it's time. You got another step.
Hold on. Let me
Let's
go
backtrack.
back. 'Cause I want to backtrack because I want y'all like y'all. So I don't know if y'all heard of the name Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is from Baltimore. He went to Lake Clifton High School, and he went to Tallahassee first before I got there. So we was supposed to play at the same time. God bless the day. He ended up getting killed in a car accident driving back from Tallahassee. So my visit down there was with him, and he had me stand in his place, and I'll never forget this. This motherfucker watched Friday the 13th the whole time with his place on 50 degrees, and he gave me a sheet. I'm saying, bro, it is freezing in here, bro. Turn the air down. I said, turn the air off. And that, what would have been, what could have been, if he would have made it, if that tragedy didn't happen, me and him in the backcourt, they still talk about that to this day in Baltimore. Because they're saying that he was mellow before mellow.
Damn. Ruthless.
Wow.
So in saying that and hearing that tragic story, how did that motivate you to become all American at Tallahassee and making your college decision?
Um, Man, that was such a tough day for Baltimore City that it was just like, damn, like you never know when your day is gonna come. You know, you never know when your time is gonna come. So make the most of it. Once again, I was already locked in, so I knew going into Tallahassee what I needed to accomplish. And then once I got the ball rolling, once my confidence started going because I started to score and I started to dominate games, and I was a freshman. And my freshman year, I went from averaging 16 points to my sophomore year, averaging 24. Boosie get the one up on me because he's still number one in scoring down there. I was trying to catch him, but he has that. But I think he left such a profound effect on what he did down there that I was always playing catch up. And I think it just depends on who you ask, who will be
Okay.
one. It'll change between who you ask. Some people say Marcus Hatt, some people
That's
say
dope.
Boosie.
I mean, coming from the same city, that's super dope.
Yeah, yeah. Same side. Same. I'm talking about same projects. Like, and really like understand each other. Like, oh yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, but you can't fuck with me type shit. Like, oh, I'm coming though. You better constantly get better because I feel like I'm only getting better and I can catch you.
Dope. So as the years, your sophomore year is coming to the end. I know you getting heavily recruited. You average 24. You doing your thing. You dancing. You feeling good about yourself. You still can't bust Sam Cassell ass. So you motivated, right?
Yeah.
So let's take us through a little
Yeah.
bit of the recruiting time. Like who was recruiting you, and how you and why you decided. I mean, well, you said why you decided St. John's, but you could go in a little bit more detail about choosing St. John's.
So Pat Kennedy was, I think he was the most consistent. Pat Kennedy at DePaul at the time, and he was like, Marcus, if you come, they had Amari Sawyer. I don't know if y'all remember that kid, and they had the big guy. I don't know if Eddie Curry was still there. I think Eddie Curry was there, and he was selling me on Eddie Curry and Amari Sawyer, and I was like, man, I'm already in Tallahassee. I don't know if I want to go even further from Baltimore and go to Chicago. But Pat Kennedy laid it out. Where's the look? We get trimester, y'all get stipends every trimester, and you be here for the summer school, and then you'll have speaking engagement where you'll get $5,000 for every speaking engagement. I'm like, all right, that sounds cool, but it's too far. Then Mike Davis at Indiana came down, and if I go to Indiana, I'm in the championship because they played Maryland, the championship. I'm like, I'm damn sure I ain't going about Indiana. It's too many white folks up there. No disrespect, it's too many white folks up there, and I ain't know nothing about it. So I was like, all right, Houston. At that time, Houston wasn't the
Right.
Houston that they are now, University of Houston. They paired me with Steve Francis and Catino Mobley. And that's how they try to wheel me. I'm like, Steve, they already in. They partying, they living the life, and Houston is crazy. But mind you, at that time, I wasn't even going out, so I wasn't no nightlife kid. So that didn't move me to say I'm going to Houston. So I go out, like I said, it was an easier choice for me because I knew that I wanted to be close to home. So this pick for me was relatively easy because St. John's was right up the street.
And what did you have any prior like ties to New York? Did you come to New York in the
None,
past, or it
none,
was just
none,
let me just jump into the
none.
water?
Yo, after I signed with St. John's, I was home every weekend.
Wow.
I'm riding the bike on the block. It's like, yo, why you ain't in school, man? It's Friday. I'm back. I'm back now. I'm on a bicycle on the basketball court doing my thing. I'm going shopping, not even knowing how fashion state New York is. I'm telling my send me up some army fatigue, man. He like, yo, you can't get them in New York. They got everything. Man, I don't know nothing about this. I don't know nothing about this. So every week until like the season really started, I was
That
going home.
that's funny because Boosie was the same way, son. It got to a point where I used to tell Boosie like, yo, you gotta stay the weekend so you can get to know the city. You know what I'm saying? He was going home Friday, whatever practice ended. He was going home. He was on the highway. Rush hour didn't matter. He was going home. And I used to tell him like, yo, you gotta get to know the city. So I totally understand your
Yo, Boosie had the car.
true.
Boosie had the car. I was jumping on the train. Boosie had the car. I was jumping on the train. Amtrak at that time was like $55 or something. And I'm getting on the train. Round trip, I'm good.
That's a quick hop. That's a quick hop too.
Marcus, real quick, paint a picture. First time you walk into Madison Square Garden with the St. John's warm up and jersey on. What was that experience like?
It was breathtaking because I really had the chills. I'm like, damn, Michael Jordan played in here. Clyde Frazier played because my dad always talked about Clyde Frazier. My dad loved Clyde Frazier. He was like, man, walk Clyde Frazier, man. He used to count people dribbles, how many dribbles it would take them to get to half court, and by the time they get to half court, he would steal the ball. So I'm like, damn, how do you know that? And like those little things that he told me about Clyde, how he dressed, how he carried himself, and then obviously saying the Bulls and Knicks in '90s, that whole rivalry, it was like, damn, you playing in the same building as Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan, like all these great players. Man, it was breathtaking for me.
Um, Marcus. So here's where I come in. So one of the executive producers, Ruben, right? We were real tight right around this time. I was probably finishing up. I was still playing. I was still like I was in between like the NBA overseas, but I think I was back home for something. And I remember tuning into a St. John's game early in your junior year, and I had never heard anything about you, and I was caught by a storm. I was caught by a storm. I was caught off guard to witness what I was watching. And I couldn't believe it that this kid I never knew about, and I'm seeing him play, and it's like, where the hell does this kid come from? And I'm asking all these questions. I'm asking Ruben, yo, who this kid Marcus Hat? And we started calling you Marky Hat because you was terrorizing. To me, like when we saw it, it was just like we couldn't believe it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I guess I want from you to know, like what happened, like right away, because you only got 2 years, right? So what happened, like right away? You got to make it pop right away. You know, you on your way to become a legend, right? But before, you probably didn't know you was gonna become a legend, but what was going through your head at that time, like right at the beginning of that, when you started playing at the beginning of your junior year? Like, what was going on in your what was your mindset? Because you started to cook like
Right
almost
away.
instantly. So what was going through your head?
Just that. I knew I didn't have time to waste. I knew I didn't have time to figure out speed, strength, the league. I had to set the tone, and I had to make them adapt to me because I knew I only had 2 years, and my whole thing was to make the league. So I knew like what was already in the Big East, like the players, the teams, and here's the funniest story. I watched St. John's a lot more after my visit because of Omar Cook. And in my head, I said, if he stays, we gonna be good. If he goes, we gonna be good. Because I never sat down and talked because he said the same thing that you just said, Nell. He said, yo, I ain't know how good you was. Jarvis and them ain't pitched to me that this is what we got coming in.
He's off the races again. Look at this. Hatten, 9-0 St. John. Hatten way down there. He shot that one from JUCO.
Yo, that's the only thing that I blame Mike Jarvis for, right? Because he didn't bring me and Omar to the table and say, hey, this is what I got, this is what I project, this is what I see for the next 2 years at least. You two guys can be not only just the best backcourt in the Big East, but throughout all of, America, the basketball world. And me and Omar finally had to talk after he left St. John's, and I think it was after my first year. And it might have been after my second year, but we ended up having a talk, and he's like, bro, if I knew you was that good, bro, I would have stayed. We would have made a whole bunch of noise, and I said the same thing to him. I said, man, at least we would have made it to the Elite Eight because he was that good. He would have won us. We won 20-something games that year and made the tournament. He would have gave us another 5, 6, 7 wins because he was that good.
Wow.
He would have made Kyle Cuff play a lot better, Willie Shaw a lot better because Omar was the pass first guy. Definitely would have made Anthony Glover a lot better. I was a score first guy, score second guy, then pass. I knew Omar's strength, and I knew I could have leave some of the scoring that was asked of him because Omar is not a scorer. Omar was good for about 15 to 17 a game, and then he would have took his assist total. He was already at 9 point something. That would have took him to like 12. So he probably would have averaged like 17 to 12. And now we're talking about one of the best backcourts in maybe Big East history.
I'm glad you framed it that way. Like, who's the toughest backcourt competition at the time for you guys in the Big East?
Talik Brown and Ben Gordon. But I thought Omar was better than Talik. That's the, and if you talk about backcourt duo, all right, then you got Brandon Knight and Julius Page at Pitt. And I think it stops at that. Because everybody else just had one. I know Boston College had Troy Bell and Ryan Sidney, but I don't think they would have been on the same level as us.
So during that time, right? You mentioned some of these players. Who you think out of that group was like your toughest competition?
For sure, Ben Gordon. For sure, because he was so efficient, and then he can score all ways, and he never stopped moving. Troy Bell was good because he knew how to get to the free throw line. Chris Thomas was really good because he knew the game. Like his IQ, the game was really good. John Linehan, he just was a nightmare on defense. Like John Linehan was crazy. Like he was like a one-man defensive wrecking crew. And Miami had some tough guards. John Salmon at the time.
Right.
Darius Rice. I mean, then you know the list goes on. Brandon Knight, I think he won Player of the Year 1 year in the Big East. Yeah, and you know McNamara, who was at Syracuse.
So
It
during
was a ton, but I think Ben was
so during this time, I know you played and competed with all these guys, and clearly your stats show you was always first team Big East or what have you. Going into your senior
mm-hmm.
year after making it to the NCAA your first year, what was the plan? What were you thinking about in regards to not just St. John's but your future? I know you guys had some very very big games scheduled like against Duke. So just tell us about that thinking process of
Mm-hmm.
you starting your senior year at the Johnnies.
Oh man, I was really excited because then a little bit of NBA buzz was kicking in at that time, talking about potential goal, potential like first round. So I was like, man, and I didn't really know or hear about the LeBron buzz until my senior year. So I was like, oh man, if I come back, I should be at least top 15
Mm-hmm.
at least. So I was excited. I knew I wasn't physically ready for the NBA after my junior year. So I was 100% coming back for my senior year. And plus, I was at the end of my junior year, I was just starting to learn New York and I was just starting to have fun. And I wasn't ready to give that up. So I'm like, all right, I'm coming back. I know the city a little better. People know me a little bit more. Now it's time to take it up to another level. I honestly wasn't even worried or cared about who Jones was recruiting because I felt like I was good enough. Whoever he brought in, I understood the Big East Conference and I understood basketball that we was going to make a lot of noise. But when I looked at it, I think a lot of guys' game didn't raise either, so that made it a lot tougher on me.
So guys didn't go
Gotcha.
guys didn't go into the
But
season
anyway,
as mentally ready and physically ready as you did.
Right, because I already knew what was coming for me. I knew like double teams were coming. I knew I wouldn't be able to sneak up on guys no more. I knew like coaches was going to game plan for me. So I was ready because I dealt with that honestly all of my life. So I kind of already understood every defense that a opposing coach can throw at me, and I knew how to deal with it because I was already a student of the game, and I had my IQ was high, so I knew how to create certain things to make it better for me. Um, like I said, I don't think a lot of guys came in confident, knowing that all right, I had a okay year, whatever year that was they was in, to like I want to have a better year the following year. So I think that's what kind of when we got like stuck, like it was like but we still had a pretty good season though.
No, you guys had a great season. I mean,
um,
no, I know you guys had a good season. I mean, with the NIT championship, but let's talk about that senior year when you iced the game against Duke. How was that experience at the Garden? That was a humongous game for not just you, but for people like me and Shawnelle, alumni, just watching that shit on TV.
I had that game circled from my junior year because we went down there and played them. And you know how it be, Ty, when everybody started to hear you, oh yeah, now we really ready to see because we gonna put them on national TV.
Hmm.
And they talk about Manhattan, this, that, and the third. And I came out, I hit my first three. I said, oh, it's on. We down in Duke. I said, it was on. And then everything just went south. They put Mike Dunleavy on me. I couldn't see nothing. He's 6'9". So all that fade away, turning my back, the people wasn't working. So I said, man, I got a revenge game. And when we came back and we played them in the Garden, man, I said, oh, this is my get back game. And I saw that, J.J. Redick, he was up and coming. Dante Jones, they were talking about him going top 10. So I said, oh, man, I'm looking at my chops. Chris Duhon, Daniel Ewing. I said, man, I got it out for these dudes. And that week, that Duke week, after I hit that free throw, that week was just legendary because I think after Duke I had 30, then I went on Rutgers, I had 44, and then I just ended the season, the regular season, with like another 30-point game, and I was going into the Big East. But that Duke game, man, was so monumental because when I look back at the highlights, man, it was so many celebrities in there just cheering, and the building was electric, and it was rocking, and everybody was just, we are New York's team, St. John's, St. John's, and that was a proud moment that I was able to actually be a part of that and bring that home and have that being one of the forever memories of for St. John's fans as a player and as a fan.
Dope.
And Marcus, I was going to segue into that. I mean, in your 2 years, man, I mean, you lit the city on fire. I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm a New Yorker, right? And from not knowing about you to just you coming in and you just taking everybody to our storm. And listen, this is a big ass city. It's like
If Ty would have been around, man, I knew I would have been good throughout the whole city for sure. It had to be the place I had to worry about getting into. That's the kind of
nah. But listen, man, you lit the city on fire. I mean, you captivated the city. Like you averaged 20 points your junior year, 22 points your senior year, all Big East performer.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where and knowing you, this is where like I'm so proud of you and happy for you, man. You named St. John's University Athletic Hall of Fame, man. And I mean, to come here in 2 years and just have that bestowed upon you, it was like when I first heard about it, I was just like I was so happy and so proud of you, man. So just tell us what your feelings was when you got nominated, you know, after the you know the work you put in at St. John's. Tell us how that felt to be being inducted to the St. John's Hall of Fame.
Man, the biggest thing for me is in that time at that ceremony was my youngest son being a part of that. That was the biggest thing for me. Like, I was definitely appreciated. It was an honor. I was very excited that they nominated me to be one of the inductees into the Hall of Fame, and to actually be inducted into the Hall of Fame was big because you got Chris Mullin, you got Malik Sealy, you got Walter Bev, you got Mark Jackson, you got Eric Barkley, you got Dave McFly, you got Felipe Lopez, like Ron Artest, like you got all of these guys who are legends, not only in St. John's but just New York. And to be a part of that and not from here, man, I was just so honored that New York City has welcomed me as I was one of their own. So it was a blessing, man, and an honor to be a part of that legacy and that history.
Super dope.
And knowing you, like, you know, when I found the news out, I was praying and hoping like you understand like how big that is. Like, you know, we got the Nate Smith Hall of Fame with, you know, but to come to a school, right, and just be acknowledged like that, man. Like, you know, not like you said, not being from here and just to you know, we embrace you and just to have that honor, man. Like, that's forever, man. So I hope you really take that in, you know, because I feel that way about you, man. Like as a former player, you know, I was a little bit before you, but just I'm like the pride that I feel like by you getting that and knowing you, man. I was so happy for you, man, and your family. Like they inducted you, so I just want to tell you that, give you your flowers, man.
Super dope.
It was like a great thing getting that news.
No, it was, man. And like I said, knowing the history of St. John's, we are up there with the top teams in winning percentage and prestige as a university. Like, we're not too far from the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys. We're right there. I want to say last time I checked, we was fifth. Like, we are up there, and the honor and to understand, like you said, what that means to be inducted into St. John's Hall of Fame, man. It's just, like I said, it's a blessing.
Yeah. And that's what this whole thing is about, man. Like, you know, me and Ty getting together and just, you know, reaching back through time and you know, we trying to bridge the time zones and the gaps and just have people like you on, like true legends, man, and just let everybody know, you know, let you tell your story and just put you at the spotlight like where you deserve. I know people tell you this and that, but just being two players, you know, doing stuff like this, like, you know, where, you know, you were one of the names that we talked about just
right away
to try to get you back, you know, to try to have you on your.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
Ty is my guy, man. You two now. We was at a game, and I want to say it was a Georgetown game. This was about 2-3 years ago, and Ty was like, "Man, call me Monday morning." I think it was like a Sunday game or something, or a Saturday game. He's like, "Man, call me Monday morning. I got something for you." And Ty actually gave me my first contract in New York to work, like to becoming legendary, to be a part of New York. And I was forever grateful for that because I learned a lot from him life after basketball as well. So that brotherhood instilled in this program is what the biggest thing for me is what that is needed throughout this time. Like not just bringing guys on the platforms or podcasts and things like that, but actually extending a hand to help further their business. Because Ty said it, like you see, I got to become a legendary hat. A lot of
Yeah.
that I learned from
Yep.
him because everything he had, team first hoodie,
Yeah.
team first hat, and wherever he go, that's what you see. So I'm forever grateful for you guys as well. Now, man, you had a conversation. We met up in the city, had some met at the juice bar, and we talked about trying to doing
Yep.
something together. So that's what I love about what's being created now at this time because we're just paving the way for like the guys who's coming after us, so we can keep that going because that's what guys did for you guys. That's what you guys did for me, and that's what I want to do for the guys coming after.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Love, man. Love, love.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I listen. They always talk about these all-time teams of St. John. I mean, North Carolina's Dukes and all that. Man, put us up. We got an all-time team that can
That's
battle
a
and
fact.
rival any of those guys.
That's a fact. I mean, listen. What you again?
And I wouldn't.
Again,
And
what
I
you?
probably wouldn't even be on the bench.
But listen, this is the beautiful thing about these type of conversations with superstars that play for the program and excelled was what was the one of the most satisfying things for me is that I got an opportunity to play against you at a professional level. You know what I'm saying? Because seeing my
Yes.
young boys that came after me getting this money, because you know that's what it was all about, and I told you that when I first saw you. You know what I'm saying? You maximize the
Absolutely.
opportunity by making as much money as you can. And playing against you while I was in Venice was super satisfactory to me. You know what I'm saying? Very satisfying. And I tell people
Hmm.
about the story about playing against guys who left St. John's, and we met up playing professionally. So even with Bootsy, I mean, I lost 2 championships to Bootsy. I lost about 180 grand to Bootsy through basketball. You know what I'm saying? But he beat my ass. So just reminiscing about the professional life of basketball. Give us a little brief outline about after St. John's, what happened, the situation you had. I know you was in with the Clippers for a little while, and then taking your talents
Hmm.
abroad.
So after I left St. John's, draft day, I had a conversation with Detroit and then the Clippers. And Detroit brought me, Troy Bell, and Reese Gaines in. And they
Reese.
said, yo, we got the 23rd pick. Whoever does well in this workout, that's who we taking at 23. So I did my thing. I cooked them. I killed them. And, they put out an article in ESPN, the magazine. We all see that the king hails in Queens, talking about how dominant of a workout that I had against those guys that they wasn't on the same level. And then I'm excited, but I really didn't know about the agent game and all of that stuff. So it was like, all right, nobody really called me and say, yo, Detroit taking you. But I just went with Detroit word, which was Joe Dumars Jr. He's like, no, that's who we taking. And they ended up taking somebody. I don't even remember who they took at 23rd. So I was a little frustrated. Excuse me. Clippers like, if you still on the board at 34, we gonna take you. 34, come down, take me. So now I got 20, 30 brothers in the hotel. We in Manhattan. They screaming Marcus Hatten in the guard. I'm like, oh, it's very happen. It's very happen. It don't happen. I took a hit. It's like a gut punch. Oh, took everything out me. Damn. Now what? Because I wasn't familiar with overseas, so I didn't know. So I said, all right, let me take a deep breath. Let me figure it out. Let me talk to Nod. Nod say, all right, we can go overseas, this, that, and the third. Like, what? What's that? Boom. I ain't really understand it. No, it was Summer League. When the Summer League had a really good Summer League, went to the Clippers Summer League, played well,
I remember that. I
changed
remember
the
that.
whole coaching staff. Changed the whole coaching staff from Dennis Johnson, God bless the dead, to Mike Dunleavy and them. They said, man, we watched film on you, man. You played really well. Go through the training camp, played really well again. I don't know if you remember this name. Josh Moore played at Michigan, 7'2". They thought he was going to be the next Shaq. They keep saying he didn't play worth a crap. I think he might have averaged 3 points. Took another but like politics. I said, damn, this shit is crazy. Gave it another try. Then I said, you know what? I think I'm at 25, 26 now. I focus on overseas. I said, I'm going to stop worrying about the NBA. I'm going to make a living overseas because, all right, now I'm making pretty good money. I'm saying, okay, I'm making this money. All right, I'm good. I said, let me change my mindset, mentality. Yo, how many kids from East Baltimore can actually say they lived in these countries? And when I found out that you can have a ball over there and life is great, they treat you like NBA stars, I'm like, oh man, I'm good. I ain't even worried about the league no more because I'm playing and then I'm still learning, but I'm still a little bit my pride's still a little hurt because I feel like I'm an NBA player, but I'm still over here.
Of
But
course,
like
of
I
course.
met Ty, like son, get this money.
Right.
All right. That's what it's
Yeah.
about. So I had to drop that ego and that NBA thing and just make a name for myself. And it led me to playing professional overseas for 15 years.
Dang.
Ty, that's big time right there. And Ty has a funny way of like getting because I had the luxury of playing with Ty for a season, and
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, I like you talked about Tallahassee. I was homesick.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to be there. You know, I played in the NBA, but like Ty had to like really like get on me one day, like yo, my man, ba 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 ba. You know, this is this was this is what you
Yeah,
this
because
is what it's
Ty,
about right here.
Ty
You
ain't gonna
know,
beat around the bush. He gonna shoot it to you straight. Where
nah,
this is what it is. Don't worry about nothing else. And that's exactly how it is. So you ain't got to worry about all the other antics or anything else around it because he give it to you as a straight shooter. So you ain't got to second guess nothing. That's what I appreciated about like what he gave the information he gave to me.
Well, you know what it is.
nah.
Even with both of you guys being super talented and with these, coming over there, and I'm having a couple more years on all of y'all in regards to, being over there, is that I was just passing on the information that was given to me. You know what I'm saying? I had some super dope old heads over
Mm-hmm.
there getting millions walking me through this shit, including Walter Berry. You know what I'm saying? So all I did was pass on the information, but I wanted you guys again to maximize y'all skill sets and make paper because we know this money don't come this easy anyway. So when I'm seeing Marcus Hatton signed here, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to get with my young man and get this money. And then Nell on my team, I'm like, nah, son, we gonna get this money together. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you play basketball and they give
Yep.
you a big check every month. Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So again, I appreciate, like I
Long
said,
as
I
we
always
love
Yeah.
it, go.
appreciated playing against you and see you out there and watching the scouting report and be like, yo, he might give us 30, but let's slow him down. You know what I'm saying? That's what I remember when I'm looking at it. He might give us 30, but let's slow him down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I loved it.
Marcus, what was playing against Ty like overseas, and is there a story that stands out?
Man, I told you, man. The first time I played him, man, I go to the hole, I get by his man, I hit him with a move, and usually like, all right, that's my brother. I ain't going. Man, he found me like he ain't know me. I was like, yo, I looked. I'm on the ground looking up at him. He ain't even look back. He looked back like whatever. Like you ain't gonna stop me from getting this bread. But that's the competitive nature that Ty has, man. Like and I watched that 99 team, and I said the same thing that I think a lot of people say. Like if he don't get hurt, if he's out there, then we go to the championship because he was the glue of that team, and he does whatever needs to be done to be a winner, and that's what it takes.
No
And,
doubt.
like he said, he gonna give you the information to get the money, but look what I got to do to get it and keep my position. So that's one of the stories that I like. We talk about 20 years ago. We talk about this story.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
And I
and
remember it vividly though, like it happened yesterday. You know what I'm
yo,
saying?
you know what the biggest thing I got from Ty was, I think playing with him, and I didn't know that about him. Like I think the fearlessness. Like I never knew that he was like that. Like as far as like he didn't give a fuck. Like
Mm-hmm.
that shit was like refreshing for me. Like that. I think that it spilled over to me. Like even like till today. Like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. Like
Right.
it's like I don't care. So that was the biggest part about playing with Ty. Like what I saw, just being close up with him, just like
Yeah, thanks
the
for,
fearlessness,
thanks
not
for
giving a
talking
fuck.
about me like I ain't on the fucking podcast right now. But I appreciate all everything you guys are saying. You know what I'm saying? I always went into stuff like that
Come on, man.
because I came out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? I came out of nowhere, and again, when we do these, have these conversations, I love to hear these stories because I'm well aware of what you did at St. John's. I wasn't well aware how you got there. So the information for me is so priceless because I know the jungles Shawnelle came from in Harlem, you came from in Baltimore, and people don't even know. They see the end story. Everybody they see Marcus Hatten as a Hall of Famer, as a Euro superstar, as a Big East first teamer, but they don't know the story,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
A ass muscle.
this is always very
Mm-hmm.
very welcoming for me. But um one of the questions that I was asked whenever they asked me about St. John's players, like who was my favorite. I always mention you in my top three. Why? Because I was getting your information through the newspaper. Like my girl at the time or whoever came and saw me overseas used to bring the newspaper. And one of the ones that I always remember when you was on the back cover of the Daily News and that shit said Manhattan. And that shit brought so much
Mm-hmm.
pride. You know what I'm saying? It brought so much pride. So tell us how that feeling was just in retrospect about that whole journey from East Baltimore, getting through St. John's, playing overseas. How do you cherish those emotions and feelings?
Yo, because it almost didn't happen. You gotta remember, my first year in St. John's was 9/11. So they was talking
Right.
about it ain't gonna be no season. I didn't even know anything about what a terrorist was. They like, we got a terrorist attack. I'm like, what does that even mean? Jarvis switched
Wow.
practice from I think 4 p.m. to 7 in the morning. We like, yo, what you tripping? What you doing? But we came in the morning. You know, he was there probably 6 o'clock, and he turned on the news, and they like, oh, we got a terrorist attack. So it almost didn't happen. That's why I cherish it because the opportunity almost wasn't there,
Wasn't there?
and I carried that. And I actually made headbands in support of the firefighters and representing New York, even though I'm from Baltimore. But for whatever reason, Jarvis didn't let me wear it. But at that time, like we said now, that's Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been crazy right now for NIL deals
Right.
and the time that we was in. So I said, you know what? You're playing. You got an opportunity to play for St. John, which was I told in my Hall of Fame speech. Yo, life comes full circle because when I come into America, it was one of my favorite movies, and guess where they was
Mhm.
playing it? They was playing in Madison Square Garden.
Right. Right.
And I was like, damn, it's crazy. I was watching it as a kid, and now I'm right here. So to be a part of that, to see how Prince Hakeem came to New York, came to Queens, he was a king, and nobody knew, kind of simulated, resonated with me. Nobody really knew who I was. I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna get this done, and then like having those 2 years at St. John's, man, led to a lifetime of relationships, a lifetime of memories, a lifetime of friendships, brotherhoods that I never forget. I cherish to this day. I tell my son wears it proudly. When he gets a hat, he wears the wristband. He tells his friends about St. John. So it's very near and dear to me. And that's why this year, when we all witness us become Big East champions again, be ranked as high as five, I want to say, getting out the first round, and then the energy that's been brought back to the city through St. John's is legendary because we waited years for this time. You know, I pops up. We like, God damn, man. And I would ask you, is he good? You like, man, he ain't you. What are you talking about? And I'm like, damn, like, and I'm trying to, you know,
Yeah.
because what we had, because what St. John's mean to us,
Mm-hmm.
like we really honest and we passionate about it because we love to see our university succeed, man.
Right.
But even then, we go through hell and high water. We don't
Mm-hmm.
care if it's a losing season, we still showing up and we encouraging the guys and we there for the alumni and we talk amongst brothers, catching up how you've been in life. So it means a lot to me, man, just to be able to wear that St. John's logo, that St. John's uniform, and still be a part of it.
Love it.
And Marcus, you segued into that perfectly. We was going to ask you the questions about what you think from this team, but yeah, this team this year it inspired our psyche. I mean, look what we're doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got two St. John's guys interviewing a St. John's guy
Mm-hmm.
legend,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it's about. They spark something in me and Todd. Like me and Todd going to the game in the NCAA. We talking, we amped up. That's stuff that we haven't felt in a while. Like we were genuinely like excited about going to games, and we get on a train, and you know what I'm saying, and it inspired us to like, come up with this concept right here, this content to have players like you on, and that's what it's all about,
A record-breaking episode of The Storm. Never did I think we would get Prince Hakeem coming to America and 9/11 reflections from Marcus Hatten to close the show. Marcus, thanks for bearing with us with
Love,
tech
baby.
delay. This was awesome. Please continue to follow what we are building here. The Storm NYC on Instagram and YouTube. This episode will be guest number 3 behind David Kane, Lucy Thornton, and now Marcus Hatten. Share it with your hoop crew, Shawnelle Scott, Tyrone Grant, special guest Marcus Hatten, executive producer Ruben Rivera. This has been The Storm. Follow us, share the goodness. Peace.